The massive chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with the murmurs of 1,000 different species. Crystalline lighting cast prismatic shadows across the tiered semicircle of diplomatic booths, each adorned with the distinctive markings of member worlds. At the lowest tier, barely visible from the upper echelons, sat the human delegation, 3 chairs where most species commanded 15 or 20. Ambassador Helena Park straightened her formal blue uniform, its simple design a stark contrast to the elaborate regalia of the elder races. Her dark eyes scanned the chamber with practiced neutrality, though the tension in her shoulders betrayed her true state of mind. 12,000 years of council history weighed upon this moment. 12 millennia of galactic governance, trade regulations, military doctrine, and cultural exchange, and humanity had been permitted to participate for less than 50 years. "They're not going to hear us," whispered Admiral Marcus Lee at her side. His weathered face remained impassive, but his fingers drummed silently against his thigh, a habit from his days commanding the 7th Fleet during the Proxima Centauri border skirmishes. "Not when the Draconian Empire stands to gain from our losses. I am aware of the political realities, Admiral," Helena replied softly. "But we must follow protocol. The Council granted us membership, however limited. We owe them the courtesy of formal petition." The 3rd member of their delegation, Dr. Amina Roy, said nothing. The scientist's attention was fixed on her datapad, her dark fingers dancing across the surface as she made last-minute revisions to their presentation. Amina had spent weeks compiling evidence of the systematic raids against human colonies. New Avalon had lost 3 orbital platforms. Elysium's agricultural districts had been burned. The Titan shipyards had barely repelled an attack that bore all the hallmarks of professional military coordination, despite the raiders' efforts to appear as disparate pirate bands. Commenced the 14th session of the 721st cycle, announced the Central Projection System, its translator algorithms delivering the message simultaneously in all Council languages. High Chancellor Vorath of the Mithra Collective rose from the central podium. His elongated cranium bore the silver circlet of his office, and the multifaceted eyes that evolved in the dim light of his homeworld surveyed the chamber with ancient authority. At over 600 years old, Vorath had presided over the Council for nearly 2 centuries. To him, humans were barely more than clever children, their rapid expansion through their local star systems a concerning aberration rather than an achievement. "Before we address scheduled matters," Vorath intoned, his translated voice carrying the ceremonial cadence of Council proceedings, "we recognize an emergency petition from Earth and its colonies." His pause carried subtle dismissal. "Ambassador Park, you may present your case." Helena rose, her movement precise and controlled. The central platform illuminated as she stepped onto it, projecting her image throughout the chamber. Her face appeared on view screens spanning dozens of worlds, transmitted through quantum relays to species who could not travel to Nexus Prime due to biological or technological limitations. "Honorable members of the Galactic Council," Helena began, her voice steady despite the accelerated beating of her heart. "I stand before you representing not just Earth, but 37 human colonies spread across 22 star systems. For the past standard year, our outer settlements have suffered increasingly coordinated attacks from forces operating beyond Council space." The holographic display behind her showed the devastation. Orbital habitats torn open to vacuum, civilian ships reduced to debris fields, settlements burning. The images were explicit in their brutality, designed to provoke empathy across species barriers. Despite following all Council protocols for defense appropriations and militia limitations, our colonies cannot withstand these assaults. We have lost over 30,000 lives in the past 6 months alone. Therefore, Earth formally requests reclassification of our defensive status from Category 4 to Category 2, allowing us to deploy enhanced shield technologies and autonomous defense systems to our vulnerable worlds. The chamber remained silent for a moment before erupting into a cacophony of overlapping translator feeds. Helena stood motionless, waiting for order to be restored. From the upper tiers, representatives of the elder races, the Zephyrian Trade Federation, the collective consciousness of Tau Ceti, the Silicon Harmonies, peered down with expressions ranging from curiosity to disdain, depending on their facial anatomies. High Chancellor Vorath raised a seven-fingered hand, and silence fell immediately. "The Council acknowledges Earth's concerns," he said, his tone measured. "However, technological restrictions exist for the stability of all. Humanity's propensity for rapid adaptation makes certain technologies particularly concerning in your possession. Our records indicate 17 instances of human colonies exceeding authorized energy output levels in the past decade alone." Helena felt her diplomatic mask slipping. "Those instances were emergency measures during natural disasters, fully documented and submitted for review. We have complied with every restriction imposed since our admission." "The Council has not recognized the ambassador for further comment," interrupted Councillor Tezin of the Draconian Empire, his scaled face arranged in what passed for a smirk among his kind. "Perhaps humans also require remedial instruction in meeting protocols." A ripple of amusement passed through several delegations. Admiral Lee's expression darkened, but he remained silent. "We will proceed to the vote," Vorath announced, ignoring the breach of procedure. "The petition requests reclassification of human defensive capabilities. All in favor?" Holographic tallies appeared above the chamber. The smaller, newer council members, species who had achieved interstellar travel within the past 1,000 years, largely supported Earth's petition. The elder races, with their tight hold on council leadership positions, voted against it almost uniformly. "The petition is denied by council majority," Vorath declared. "Earth and its colonies will maintain Category 4 defensive limitations. This session will now proceed to the next." "Point of emergency address," Helena interrupted, her voice cutting through the chamber's acoustics with unexpected authority. Vorath's multifaceted eyes narrowed slightly. "The Earth delegation has concluded its business. I invoke Article 7 of the Charter of Nexus, granting any member world the right to emergency address, following a decision directly impacting its security," Helena stated, citing ancient council law that even Vorath could not ignore without undermining his own authority. A murmur of surprise rippled through the chamber. Few newer members ever invoked the Charter against the council leadership. "Proceed," Vorath said, his translated voice carrying a hint of annoyance. Helena stepped forward once more, but something had changed in her demeanor. The careful diplomacy had vanished, replaced by a cold certainty that made even the elder race representatives take notice. For 47 years, humanity has abided by council restrictions. We have limited our colonization efforts. We have shared our cultural and scientific achievements. We have contributed to peacekeeping operations that did not directly benefit our worlds. We have done this in good faith, believing the Council's promise that all members stand equal under galactic law." She paused, looking directly at Vorath. "Today proves that promise false. The Council has denied us the right to defend our own people, while offering no alternative protection. Therefore, by the authority vested in me by the United Earth Government and its colonial extensions, I hereby formally withdraw humanity from the Galactic Council, effective immediately." The chamber erupted. Some species required translator adjustments to ensure they had heard correctly. No race had withdrawn from the Council in over 3,000 years. The diplomatic, economic, and security implications were staggering. Admiral Lee stood, flanking Helena on one side, as Dr. Roy rose to stand at her other. The image of the three humans standing united transmitted across the galaxy, a visual declaration that would be archived in Council records for millennia to come. "This is unprecedented," Vorath said, actual emotion breaking through his diplomatic facade. "You cannot." Article 12, subsection 9 of the Council Charter, clearly states that any member may withdraw with immediate effect if they determine Council membership threatens their sovereign security. Helena responded, the words flowing easily after months of preparation for this very contingency. We have made that determination. The three humans turned as one and began walking toward the chamber exit. The elder tier erupted into demands that they be stopped. But the younger members, many suffering similar treatment from the council leadership, made no move to intervene. As they reached the grand archway leading out of the chamber, Helena turned one last time. Her image projected across the stars as she delivered her final words as a council delegate. Humanity departs not out of fear, but resolve. Remember this day. The council chamber doors closed behind them with a resounding thud that echoed throughout Nexus Prime and through the quantum relays across the known galaxy. President Sophia Nguyen stood before the emergency session of Earth's Unified Assembly. Her tailored gray suit, a symbol of the gravity of the moment. The Grand Chamber in New Geneva hummed with tension as representatives from Earth's nations and colonial administrations filled every seat. The session had been convened within hours of Ambassador Park's departure from the council chamber, using quantum entanglement communications to assemble humanity's leadership faster than any gathering in history. Representatives of humanity, President Nguyen began, her voice carrying the weight of her Vietnamese ancestry alongside the precise diction of her European education. Today marks a turning point in our interstellar history. For the first time, we stand truly alone among the stars. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The decision to withdraw from the council had been planned as a contingency, but many had not believed Ambassador Park would actually implement it. Before I continue, I must request that all external communications be suspended. The Speaker of the Assembly looked startled. Madam President, this session is being broadcast to every human settlement, and only to human settlements. The President clarified, effective immediately. All transmissions to Council space are to be encrypted using Protocol Omega. Silence fell across the chamber as the implications sank in. Protocol Omega had been developed, but never implemented. A complete communications blackout designed to prevent technological surveillance by advanced Council species. Once confirmation came that the protocol was active, President Nguyen nodded to her Chief of Staff, who distributed secure data tablets to the Assembly leadership. What I am about to share has been classified under the highest security protocols since our admission to the Council. She continued. Operation Iron Dawn was established 46 years ago, on the day we accepted Council membership and its accompanying restrictions. The data tablets activated, displaying schematics and research papers that made even the most composed representatives gasp. The Council imposed technological limitations that they claimed were for galactic stability. In reality, these restrictions have kept younger species dependent and vulnerable. For nearly 5 decades, our best minds have worked in secret to ensure humanity would never be truly defenseless. Dr. Amina Roy stepped forward from the shadows at the edge of the stage. The scientist's presence added weight to the President's words. The Titan shipyards have served as more than a commercial manufacturing center, Dr. Roy explained, her calm voice belying the revolutionary nature of her words. Deep beneath the surface of Saturn's moon, we have constructed an entire parallel development program. The Mars Orbital Laboratory has been running quantum simulations of technologies the Council classified as forbidden. Research outposts in the Oort cloud have tested propulsion systems beyond anything the Council has witnessed. Holographic displays activated throughout the chamber, showing vast underground facilities where ships of unfamiliar configuration stood in various stages of completion. Space stations hidden within asteroids housed laboratories filled with technologies that violated dozens of Council restrictions. These are not merely defensive measures, Admiral Lee added, stepping up beside Dr. Roy. The ships we've constructed incorporate technologies reverse-engineered from artifacts predating the Council itself. The weapon systems exceed anything in the Council's arsenals, except perhaps those of the eldest races. A representative from the Proxima Centauri colonies stood, his face pale. "You're telling us we've been violating Council law for decades? That we've been lying to the galactic community since the day we joined?" President Nguyen met his gaze steadily. "We've been ensuring human survival. The Council's category system isn't about preventing technological destabilization. It's about maintaining the power hierarchy. The elder races keep the most advanced technologies for themselves while restricting everyone else." "But the pirates," another representative began. "We're never pirates," Admiral Lee interrupted grimly. "Our intelligence division identified Council encryption protocols in their communications months ago. These attacks were orchestrated, primarily by the Draconian Empire with tacit approval from the Council leadership. They sought to keep us dependent on Council protection that would never actually arrive." The chamber erupted into angry shouts and demands for immediate action. President Nguyen raised her hands for silence. Ambassador Park's withdrawal was the signal to activate Operation Iron Dawn. As we speak, our hidden fleets are moving into position around every human world. The Mars defense grid is coming online. The Jupiter antimatter facilities are at full production. She paused, letting the magnitude of the revelation sink in. "Make no mistake. We have just declared our independence from the most powerful political entity in known space. The Council will not accept this quietly. They will attempt to force our return through economic pressure, then military action. We must be unified and resolute." The Assembly voted unanimously to support the activation of humanity's hidden defenses. Within hours, orders went out to every human settlement, triggering contingency plans that had been embedded in their founding charters. On New Avalon, massive doors opened in what colonists had believed were natural mountain ranges, revealing artillery emplacements and hangar bays. The 3 moons of Elysium, thought to be captured asteroids, began shifting orbit as propulsion systems activated for the first time. The Titan shipyard's outer facilities, the only portions visible to Council inspectors, retracted into the moon's surface, while the true shipyards beneath deployed their first wave of vessels. Across human space, a hidden infrastructure awakened. Systems that had been tested only in simulation came online simultaneously, creating a defensive network unlike anything the galaxy had seen in millennia. And in the darkness between stars, sensor platforms detected the first Council response, a Draconian battle fleet departing their core systems, headed directly for New Avalon. The Draconian ultimatum arrived 3 days after humanity's withdrawal. General Taldrak's scaled visage filled the communication screens in Earth's military command center, his ceremonial armor adorned with trophies from conquered worlds. "The rebellious actions of your species cannot be tolerated," the general declared, not bothering with diplomatic niceties. "The Draconian Empire, with full Council authorization, demands your immediate return to Council authority and the surrender of all unauthorized technologies. You have 48 hours to comply before we implement appropriate corrective measures." Admiral Marcus Lee stood before the projection, his weathered face betraying none of the calculation happening behind his eyes. Around him, the combined military leadership of humanity waited for his response. "General Taldrak," Lee replied evenly, "the Empire's concern is noted. However, as we are no longer Council members, we do not recognize its authority to issue ultimatums. Any hostile action against human worlds will be met with proportional response." The Draconian's inner eyelids flickered, a sign of amusement among his species. "Your bravado is misplaced, Admiral. Our intelligence reports indicate your defensive capabilities remain within Council restrictions. The Empire's 7th Battle Group will arrive at your colony of New Avalon in precisely 50 hours. I suggest you prepare your surrender terms." The transmission cut abruptly. Admiral Lee turned to his staff, his expression grim but determined. "They're targeting New Avalon first," he said. "They believe it's our most vulnerable major colony because of the recent pirate attacks. It's also our most heavily defended position since the activation of Iron Dawn," replied Fleet Commander Javier Rodriguez. "The orbital platforms alone could handle a fleet twice the size of their 7th battle group. And they have no idea about the lunar installations," added General Sarah Chen of the Colonial Defense Forces. "We should evacuate civilians nonetheless." Admiral Lee shook his head. "No evacuations. That would tip our hand. We need the Draconians to commit their forces fully." He turned to the quantum communication array. "Get me Ambassador Park. She needs to be on New Avalon when the Draconians arrive." Half a galaxy away, Helena Park received the Admiral's message while en route from Nexus Prime. Her diplomatic vessel, ostensibly a simple transport, revealed its true nature as hidden weapon systems came online and an advanced propulsion system activated, cutting her journey time by 2/3. She arrived at New Avalon 12 hours before the Draconian fleet. The planet, a lush garden world with twin oceans separated by a single, massive continent, showed no external signs of the military buildup occurring beneath its surface. From orbit, one could see only the colonial capital of New Victoria, the agricultural regions to the south, and the mining operations in the northern mountains. Helena's shuttle landed at the government complex in New Victoria, where Governor Elizabeth Chen waited on the platform. "Madam Ambassador," the governor greeted her formally, though the two women had known each other since university. "Welcome to what will soon be a battlefield." "Let's hope it's a short-lived one," Helena replied as they walked briskly toward the underground command center. "How are the civilian populations?" "Remarkably calm, considering we just revealed that their planet has been a military fortress in disguise for the past 30 years. The truth about the Council's treatment of humanity has united them. They're ready." The command center buzzed with controlled activity as military personnel and civilian administrators coordinated final preparations. Dr. Amina Roy had arrived hours earlier and was calibrating the colony's defense systems alongside New Avalon's chief scientist. "Ambassador," Dr. Roy nodded as Helena approached her station. "The Draconians have no idea what they're flying into. Their standard tactics rely on overwhelming force against conventional defenses. They've never encountered anything like our gravitic distortion fields." "And if they adapt?" Helena asked quietly. Dr. Roy's smile was tight but confident. "That's why we have 13 redundant defense systems. The lunar artillery platforms alone could vaporize their entire fleet. But we're hoping for a more instructive demonstration." Admiral Lee's holographic form appeared in the center of the command room. "Draconian fleet has entered the outer system. 37 capital ships, approximately 200 support vessels, standard Imperial formation. They're making no attempt at subtlety." "Why would they?" Governor Chen replied. "They expect to find a panicked colony with a few outdated defense satellites." "All units maintain passive status," Admiral Lee ordered. "Let them approach to standard bombardment range. Ambassador Park, prepare for transmission once the demonstration is complete." The next hours passed in tense preparation. On screens throughout the command center, the Draconian fleet grew closer, its formation tightening as it prepared to execute a standard Imperial assault pattern. New Avalon appeared defenseless, its orbital space empty of military vessels, its planetary surface unshielded. General Taldrak's voice boomed through the communication system. "Attention human colony. Your defense window has expired. Surrender and prepare for Imperial occupation, or face immediate military action." Governor Chen looked to Helena, who nodded once. "General Taldrak," the governor responded. "New Avalon recognizes no authority but Earth's. We do not surrender." "So be it," the Draconian replied. "Your defiance will serve as an example to other species who might consider following humanity's foolish path." The Draconian fleet moved into bombardment formation. On the command center's main display, targeting locks appeared across New Avalon's surface. Population centers, infrastructure nodes, government facilities. Admiral Lee's voice was calm. All units, execute Operation Revelation. Authorization Lee Alpha 70. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, across New Avalon's surface, massive sections of landscape began to shift. Mountains split open to reveal artillery emplacements. Lakes drained as hidden hangar bays activated beneath them. The planet's 3 small moons, previously thought to be natural satellites, ignited propulsion systems and moved into precise defensive positions. In orbit, quantum fields shimmered as cloaking systems deactivated, revealing a defensive grid of unprecedented sophistication. Automated weapon platforms, energy projectors, and minefield generators surrounded the planet in a 3-dimensional matrix. The Draconian fleet halted its advance. Their sensors, calibrated for standard Council technology, struggled to classify the sudden appearance of so many unknown systems. New Avalon defense grid is active, reported the weapons officer. Targeting solutions acquired for all Draconian vessels. Hold fire, Admiral Lee commanded. Let them make the first move. They didn't wait long. A Draconian destroyer at the edge of their formation launched a volley of quantum torpedoes, standard procedure to test unknown defenses. The torpedoes never reached their targets. Midway to New Avalon, they simply ceased to exist as localized gravitic distortion fields collapsed the space they occupied. Fascinating, Dr. Roy murmured, studying the telemetry. Their quantum stability is even less resilient than our simulations predicted. The Draconian fleet paused again, clearly reassessing their approach. Then, with the disciplined precision that had made the Empire a feared military power for millennia, they launched a full-spectrum assault. Energy weapons, kinetic projectiles, dimensional charges, and fighter squadrons converged on New Avalon from multiple vectors. Defense grid responding, announced the tactical officer. Gravitic shields at full capacity. Around the planet, the attack simply stopped. Energy beams curved away from their targets. Projectiles slowed and suspended in space. Fighter craft found themselves unable to maintain course as the fundamental forces of physics were selectively manipulated around them. Lunar platforms 1 and 2 requesting firing authorization, reported another officer. Admiral Lee nodded. Granted, precision targeting only. We're making a point, not starting a war. From 2 of New Avalon's moons, brilliant beams of coherent energy lanced out. They struck the Draconian fleet with surgical precision, disabling propulsion systems and weapons arrays without destroying the vessels themselves. Ship after ship went dark, drifting powerless in space. On the command center's main screen, General Taldrak's face appeared again, his scaled features contorted in what humans had learned to recognize as shock. This is impossible, he sputtered. These technologies are beyond even Category 1 restrictions. The Council lied to you too, General, Helena Park said, stepping into view. They've kept the elder races content with technologies far inferior to what they themselves possess. Humanity simply refused to accept artificial limitations. Behind her, the displays showed the Draconian flagship losing power, its lights flickering out section by section. Your fleet is disabled, not destroyed, Helena continued. We will provide emergency life support and evacuation assistance for your crews. Return to your empire with this message. Humanity did not need your council to protect our own. We never did. The transmission to the Draconian flagship ended, but another began immediately, broadcasting from New Avalon to every world in council space. Helena stood straight, her diplomatic uniform exchanged for simpler civilian clothing emblazoned with Earth's emblem. To all species of the galaxy, she began, her words translated into hundreds of languages. Today, the Draconian Empire attempted to force humanity back under Council control through military action. Their fleet has been neutralized without casualties by defense systems the Council would have forbidden us to develop. Behind her, footage showed the disabled Draconian vessels being tractored to safe orbits by human ships that had remained cloaked until now. For too long, the Council has maintained power by restricting technological development and fostering dependency. Humanity rejects this model. We believe every species has the right to develop according to their own path, to defend their own worlds, to determine their own future. She paused, allowing her words to resonate across thousands of worlds. To those species who wish to break free from Council restrictions, humanity extends its hand in partnership. We offer neither dominion nor dependency, but collaboration between equals. The human sphere now exists as an alternative to Council governance. The quantum relays carried her message to the farthest reaches of explored space. On 1,000 worlds, species who had chafed under Council limitations watched with growing hope. On Nexus Prime, the Council chamber descended into chaos as the implications became clear. The transmission ended with a simple image: the disabled Draconian fleet, suspended before New Avalon, framed by the planet's 3 moons, now revealed as the most advanced defensive platforms in known space. In the weeks that followed the Battle of New Avalon, the galactic landscape transformed with breathtaking speed. The first to approach humanity were the Zephyrians, a species whose technological ingenuity had been consistently stifled by Council restrictions. Their emissaries arrived at Earth not through official channels, but via private trading vessels, seeking discreet negotiations. Admiral Marcus Lee, now serving as Earth's interim diplomatic coordinator, met the Zephyrian delegation aboard the orbital platform New Horizon. The avian aliens, with their iridescent plumage and quick, darting movements, showed none of the aloofness that had characterized their Council representatives. The Zephyrian Trade Federation has watched humanity's path with great interest, stated Chief Negotiator Curvex, his translator, rendering his melodic speech into crisp English. Your species accomplished in 50 years what took us centuries under Council oversight. We had the advantage of seeing the system from the outside before joining, Lee replied cautiously, and human history has made us resistant to external control. The Zephyrian's head crest flared in what humans had learned was amusement, a trait many species might benefit from cultivating. The Federation proposes a mutual exchange, our advanced materials science for your gravitic manipulation technologies. Lee raised an eyebrow. That would violate at least 7 Council prohibitions. We are no longer bound by Council law, Curvex replied simply. The Federation formally withdrew yesterday. 16 other species have done the same since your demonstration at New Avalon. The negotiations proceeded quickly after that. Within days, Zephyrian scientists were collaborating with human researchers on joint projects, while their diplomats drafted the framework for what would become the Technology Exchange Accords, the founding document of the human sphere. On Mars, Dr. Amina Roy supervised the integration of Zephyrian crystal matrices with human quantum processors, creating computational systems that exceeded anything previously developed by either species. The Council didn't just keep us from advancing, she remarked to her Zephyrian counterpart, as they watched the first successful test. They deliberately prevented collaboration that could have benefited everyone. The Zephyrian scientist, Professor Tinzar, extended his wings slightly in his species' equivalent of a nod. They feared what we might become if we worked together, perhaps with reason. At the Titan shipyards, now operating openly, vessels of new design took shape, incorporating technologies from humanity, the Zephyrians, and 3 other species that had joined the growing alliance, where Council ships maintained rigid separation between species-specific sections. These new craft integrated diverse biological needs and technological approaches into unified systems. On Nexus Prime, the Council convened an emergency session that lasted for weeks without resolution. The Elder Races, led by High Chancellor Vorath, demanded immediate sanctions against Earth and its allies. The middle-tier species, seeing the potential collapse of the system that had defined galactic politics for millennia, wavered between traditions and self-interest. Ambassador Helena Park returned to Nexus Prime 60 days after her departure, not as Earth's representative, but as the designated emissary of the newly formed human sphere, an alliance now comprising 23 former Council species. She requested an audience before the full Council, invoking ancient protocols that even Vorath could not deny without destroying the legitimacy of his own position. The Council chamber, so recently the site of humanity's dramatic exit, fell silent as Helena ascended to the central platform. Gone was her Council-approved diplomatic uniform, replaced by a simple white suit, adorned only with the emblem of Earth, overlaid with the stylized sphere that represented the new alliance. "High Chancellor, honored representatives," she began, her voice carrying the confidence of one who no longer needed Council approval. "I return not to rejoin your assembly, but to extend an invitation." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. On the upper tiers, the elder race's representatives shifted uncomfortably. The human sphere formally invites the Galactic Council to send representatives to Earth for the first Concord Conference, where we will establish protocols for cooperation between our respective organizations. Vorath's multifaceted eyes narrowed. "You presume much, Ambassador. The Council does not negotiate with breakaway factions. The human sphere represents over 800 inhabited worlds across 23 species," Helena replied calmly. "We account for 37% of the galaxy's economic output and control key transit routes between the spiral arms. We are not a faction, Chancellor. We are a new reality." She gestured, and holographic displays activated throughout the chamber, showing the rapid construction of joint human Zephyrian defense stations along former Council borders. The integration of Folian energy systems with human gravitic technology. The first test flights of ships that could traverse the gap between galaxies. For 12,000 years, the Council has maintained stability through restriction. The human sphere offers advancement through collaboration. We believe both approaches can coexist, serving different species according to their needs and aspirations. From the middle tiers, representatives leaned forward, openly interested. Many had already received unofficial communications from the human sphere, offering technological exchanges that would have been forbidden under Council law. "Should the Council decline our invitation?" Helena continued. "We will of course respect your decision, but know that our doors remain open to any species, whether they choose to maintain Council membership or not." The implicit message was clear. The monopoly on interstellar governance had ended. Species could now choose which system better served their interests. High Chancellor Vorath rose slowly, his ancient dignity reasserting itself. "The Council will consider your invitation, Ambassador Park. We require time to deliberate." "Of course," Helena replied with a diplomatic nod. "The Concord Conference begins in 30 standard days. We hope to welcome Council representatives there." As she departed the chamber, dozens of diplomats broke protocol to approach her directly, pressing data crystals into her hands or whispering requests for private meetings. The Council was fracturing not through conflict, but through choice, exactly as humanity had planned. 3 weeks later, a Council delegation arrived at Earth, led not by Vorath, but by representatives of the middle-tier species. They came not to reassert authority, but to negotiate terms of coexistence. The Concord Conference, broadcast across both Council space and the human sphere, established the new galactic order. 2 systems, distinct but interconnected, offering different paths of development for species according to their own choices. On the final day of the conference, Helena Park stood on the observation deck of the orbital platform Genesis, watching as ships from dozens of worlds orbited Earth in a display of unity, unprecedented in galactic history. Beside her stood Admiral Lee, Dr. Roy, and President Nguyen, the architects of humanity's new position. "Did you ever imagine this outcome when you walked out of the council chamber?" President Nguyen asked quietly. Helena's gaze remained fixed on the spectacular vista before them. "I hoped, but hope alone isn't strategy." "No," agreed Admiral Lee. "Strategy is having 5 backup plans and the courage to execute when the moment comes." Dr. Roy smiled slightly. "And technology is having the tools to make those plans viable." Below them, Earth turned serenely, its blue-white surface a stark contrast to the technological marvels orbiting above. From this vantage point, one could see the nascent framework of what would become the Starborn Gate, a massive construction project at Earth-Luna Lagrange Point 1 that would serve as the primary nexus for the human sphere. President Nguyen raised a glass of champagne. "To the day humanity departed the Galactic Council. And to the universe that changed because of it," Helena finished, completing the phrase that had already entered into human historical records. As their glasses clinked, a new vessel appeared from hyperspace, the first ship constructed jointly by all 23 founding species of the human sphere. Its design reflected not dominance, but synthesis, not restriction, but possibility. Across the stars, a new era had begun.